Okay, so the real estate market is crashing or going into a recession just like the rest of the economy is. And I'm going to tell you my strategy about how to get rich during this, or at least how to grow your net worth or portfolio, even if you don't have anything starting off. So we're going to go all into that today. Like and subscribe to this channel. I flip houses, flipped about over 100 houses, have about 8 rental units, and sold over like 200 houses until I couldn't and didn't want to deal with the clients anymore. So let's get to you and how we can look at this recession and then how we can make money during this recession. So I think it's really important to remember that there's always an opportunity to buy an asset. No matter if the economy's up, the economy's down, you always have an opportunity to buy an asset. It just depends on what asset to buy. Now, if we are going into a recession, which it most likely looks like we are, and I think some people would already say that we're, pretty much 99% of the way there, then lots of people would say, oh, now's not the time to invest in real estate. However, in my opinion, real estate is like a quilt. There is so many different localities within the broader real estate market that each city is different. So while the global economy or the global market could be melting down, or the US market could be melting down, even your state market could be melting down, you can still potentially make some money in a particular city or even on a particular street or in a particular neighborhood. So I think it's important to remember. Let's also talk about 2006. Now, I'm just going to lay a little bit of the groundwork based off what happened in the last recession, because it's going to be important for you to get that base of knowledge going forward for this one. So I'm going to tell you a story. So I was working in a real estate office in 2006 to 2008, and these people purchased the real estate office, and they had not purchased a real estate office before. So they bought the business and they started to make a lot of money. They had a lot of cash flow from the business. Now, what they did with that cash flow is they bought speculative investments. So they bought high-priced properties that was on the beach and beachfront that they were then reselling. So they would do a little bit of fix and flip, and they would resell those houses, and they were $1 million plus, and they'd sell them for 1.3, 1.5, and they would make the spread. They'd make good money on that. Now, when the recession happened, it happened very, very quickly. So recessions happen in at least 1 or 2 quarters, basically. And then they will stay on average for about 11 months. So they come on really quickly and they linger for a year. Now, that makes house flipping particularly dangerous, because if you are flipping a house and the value of it goes down really, really fast and it stays down for 11 months on average, that's going to completely knock you out and wipe you out. So what you want to do, in my opinion, is you never want to flip in the highest tier. So there's a chart that just came out recently that says that the U.S. housing market is falling, but in particular price points. So it's almost helpful to look at it like a staircase or a ladder. Let's think of it like a staircase first. The top of the staircase, the top of the stair is the one that's affected first. And then as you walk down, it gets affected less and less as time goes on, right? So the top of the market gets hit first, and then you go next rung down, and that'll get hit. Then you go the next rung down, that'll get hit. But the cool thing about that is if you're not flipping at the top of the market, which means the top of the price point, so $800,000 or $1 million and over, that means that you will, if you're paying attention, see the top luxury price point be affected first. So that gives you some time to exit your assets. So that's number one. That's the most important thing to learn, is that when you are entering a recession, or when we are entering a recession, the higher price points get hit first. When that happens, if you are positioned well enough, you can exit your houses or your assets quickly if you need to, and get out of them prior to the whole market hitting and losing value, which I think is really, really important. The second thing we saw is exit strategies having a problem. So these guys that were flipping these $1 million homes back in the 2006, 2007 recession, when the economy went away and the prices of the houses plummeted, and no one was buying these houses anymore, they could have done a couple things. They could have exited their asset and they could have refinanced out of them. It's a very popular real estate strategy. It's called the burn method. They could have exited them out of them pretty quickly, in a month or so, and then they could have retained them as rentals if they weren't in that luxury price point. Now, why is that a problem? Sometimes it's not a problem. If you're in a vacation area and you're paying a mortgage on a $1 million house and you can rent it out to vacationers on a short-term rental basis, you could be making double your mortgage payment. But a lot of times, you're not in a vacation area. And if you have a very expensive top-tier asset, and you go to refinance out of it, you won't be able to meet the minimum mortgage payment with the rents. So if you're having a mortgage payment, let's say it's right here, let's say it's $12,000 a month for a luxury house, then you're going to want your rents to be much higher than that to cover your mortgage, to cover some expenses, to cover property taxes, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And so that's where people got in trouble. They were messing around with homes that if they had to refinance out of, they wouldn't be able to carry the mortgage. Those are the only two people that got completely decimated in the real estate investing space for the most part over the last recession. The people that couldn't afford the mortgages on a month-to-month basis, and the people that over-leveraged themselves and couldn't sell their houses for what they thought they were going to be able to, right? So the people that were hit first at the top tier, because the top tier could not see it coming because they didn't have anything above them to show it was coming. Now, hindsight's 2020, you could look back and you're like, oh, there's warning signs, there's this, there's that, which is true. But the best way to tell if a housing market crash is coming is to be positioned where there's something above you that you can tell on them first, right? Like they're the one that gets affected first, and then you're like, oh shit, I don't want this to happen to me, so you can exit out of your stuff. Okay, so I hope I convinced you what not to do, which is get into a high price tier house investing strategy, and also get into something where you can't refinance out and keep your mortgage payment paid every month. So don't do those two things, right? So I like to employ a play not to lose strategy. Some people might say, well, that's not fun. I want to play to win. But here's the thing. This game of investing is we're going to be playing for the rest of our lives. Whether you're 90, whether you're 100, whether you're 15, 20, 25, you're going to be playing this investment game. So what you want is you want to not take moves that are going to knock you out. You can be as risky as you want to. Be as risky as you want to. Just don't make moves that are going to knock you out of the game. What do I mean by that? The people that were house flipping the multi-million-dollar houses last recession got knocked out of the game because they declared bankruptcy, and they were knocked out of the game for 7 years before it went away and they could do stuff again. Now, of course, you can still do business if you're bankrupt. It just gets a lot harder, and you're unnecessarily making this harder on yourself because it's hard enough as it is, hard enough already. So try not to do that. So what's the strategy? What's the move going forward in this housing recession that's coming? For me personally, everything is going to be getting cheaper. Now, if things aren't already cheaper by the time you're watching this video, things have already increased by going on the market, which means there's already more homes coming on the market than there were 6 months ago. So if they're not necessarily getting cheaper yet, they're being more plentiful. So you have more deals to choose from. And when there's more plentiful deals, they will eventually be cheaper because they are being competitive with other houses and they have to, lower the price to get someone to buy it. So if it's not cheap yet, it's going to be. But you get a lot more options now than you have in the last 5 years. I guarantee you this recession will turn into a lot more housing options for you to pick from. My favorite strategy, if you're starting out, would be house hacking. You can house hack. I'm sure you've heard that everywhere, so we're just going to touch on it very, very briefly. But house hacking would be if I bought this place and I had a roommate. Very simple. House hacking would be if I bought a duplex and I put in a roommate on one side, or I let someone rent out one side and I kept the main house, something like that. Or if I had a single family house and I built an ADU or turned my garage into a unit I can rent out. So think about if you were to acquire an asset, to buy an asset during this recession, then you want to lower your monthly expense as much as possible. So I like to think of it as a entire block of change that I owe. And then every time I add something to it, let's see, roommate, short-term rental unit, or whatever, you can lower that, and you want it to be zero because you want to be living for free eventually. So if you haven't done any kind of investing yet, the first thing is to get your house hacked. Now, you can even rent a place and get a roommate with you while you rent. You can do any of that. Just get your monthly expenses as low as possible. The second thing to do is, if you are buying through this recession, I would personally stay away from a couple different things. I would stay away from large house flips, so large luxury house flips like we talked about. Anything, I think, like 800,000 and above. If you're just starting out, I think you should definitely start with the thing higher than what you would rent for. So what do I mean by that? So think about buying as, once again, like a staircase, right? And you're renting first, and then you take a step up, and then the first things people buy, or let's just say, depending on your market, but let's say the entry level price of a home is 150,000, and then from there it goes 250,000, 350,000. Then you start to get to higher and higher price points. So where I would focus, if you're just starting out with like house flipping and want to start with house flipping, would be start out in that entry level price point for your market, which means below that you're not going to really find any houses. In Columbia, South Carolina, where I flip a lot, the entry level price point is around 150,000. So if you buy a house at 50 or 60,000 and put some money into it, you can sell it for 150,000. It's a very good, very easy way to start out in house flipping. Now you would say, okay, I have no money. Well, that's very, very simple, because if you have no money and you have a good deal, then you can just go into a Facebook group, a real estate Facebook group, and say, hey, I have this good deal. I want to partner with someone. If they can bring the down payment amount, I can do the rest, or whatever. So I would definitely stick to those lower price tiers, pretty much starting out whenever, but definitely in a recession. They're always going to be, in my opinion, the first time home buyer, right? So if you get to and you want to stick to the first time home buyer, then I think that that's the best way to protect your downside and to start out. If you find a good deal of someone wanting to sell, you should go to a hard money loan company if you need the money, or a private investor would be better, but you can just Google hard money loan companies, and then from there you will be able to just call all of them and say, this is the deal I got, what do you need from me? Can you finance this? And lots of the national companies, if they can't finance you, there can be regional or companies even in your city to finance you. So let's just say you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, then you found a deal there. You would say, hard money lenders, Raleigh, North Carolina, and then just call all of them. That's what me and my business partner did. We were sitting at DC Pride, and we were drinking. We were in the Airbnb, and I was like, oh, we need money. And she's like, yeah, we do. And I was like, let's Google hard money loan companies. And we called, we were drinking mimosas at 10 in the morning. We called 30 of them, and it was fantastic because like 5 of them said yes. I mean, obviously we settled on one, but we went from having no money to money to buy an asset in an afternoon, which is great. If you don't have good credit, find someone with it. If you don't have whatever, find someone with it. Just partner with someone. That is the biggest hack in the entire world. If you don't have something, find someone that does have it. And if you need to find those people, go to Facebook. Go to the Facebook real estate group in your area, and go to, once again, Raleigh, North Carolina, real estate investors, and then just post in there. Be like, I have this, I don't have this, I need your help. Done. No excuse not to have it. Another great strategy for the recession is to get your buy and holds. Now, there's going to be a lot of multifamilies coming up on the market, and that's something that we've not seen for a very, very long time. We have not seen multifamily. So seeing multifamilies is going to be so cool and so amazing. You're going to be able to buy them off the MLS. You're going to be able to buy them, and you're not going to have to like go off market. They're going to be just popping up like weeds all over the place, and that would be excellent. Now, you can use a government-backed loan, an FHA loan, to buy up to a quadplex, which is going to be really, really cool for you. And you can do that as a permanent residence, I believe once every 2 years, something like that. But if you do not have a house yet, and if you have not used your FHA loan, do it in this recession. Do it now. This is not financial advice, of course, but I would do it now. as the recession deepens, once you find a good deal on multifamily, because multifamily is going to be the easiest thing to house hack. It's going to be the easiest thing to turn into a short-term rental if you want to, and you're going to make a lot of money off that if possible. Another thing you can really do is, I think that the single family market is not, or the short-term rental market is not going to go away in this recession. It is going to be something that is going to be around throughout the recession, maybe even more so, because people might be vacationing internationally less, and they might want to vacation domestically more. So when that happens, they're going to want to do short-term rentals. And when you have a multifamily, you can reposition some of them as a short-term rental unit, which is really, really good. Now, this strategy and this stuff, my business partner, who is also my property manager for Airbnbs, we teach this to people. And it's not really teaching anything that you can't find on the internet. I mean, nothing special, nothing is special knowledge that no one else has, like a lot of people have this and you can just YouTube it and Google it. But where the teaching part and where the coaching part comes in that we do especially is around mindset. I think that like 9 times out of 10, it's not the knowledge that people have problems with. They have some sort of internal block. They have some sort of fear. They have some sort of bad experience. They have some sort of something holding them back, friction, resistance. And we kind of help you overcome that and identify it. You'd have to do all the work. You have to do all the work on you. You have to do all the stuff about getting past your friction and fear. But we help you with that, and we give you strategies, and we tell you how we've seen other people do it, and we tell you how this happens. But even just having someone to go over and be like, hey, is this okay? A lot of people they get stuck for years and years and years on, is this okay to do? Should I even ask for this? Should I even approach this seller? And what if I do? And then what if he wants to sell? What do I do next? Like, I don't even know the proper steps. I'm scared. So that's what kind of coaching is all about. So that's what me and my business partner help people with. But those are the 3 strategies I think will really work. Those are what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be flipping. I'm going to be flipping in entry-level price points, first-time home buyer price points, over and over and over again. Easy way to make 20 to 40 grand every time. Pop, just pop them out. Super simple. I'm going to be using that money to buy multifamily deals, and I'm going to be repositioning those multifamily deals into short-term rentals and buying things that are already short-term rentals too, and then just having them and managing the hell out of them. And then in 30 years, look, you're rich. So that would be fantastic. But honestly, if you can work on it in the next year, you can get your cash flow up to a point where I guarantee you it can level out with any job you're making. If you really, really hustle and really do it, there are definitely great opportunities to do it. And you don't need a ton of money to get started. But if you do need a ton of money to get started, go into your Facebook group and say, I have this deal, but I don't have this, right? Someone will happily jump in and help partner with you, and then you can look it out. And just remember, you're gonna make mistakes. This is a recession, but don't make a mistake that's going to end your career for some amount of time. So if there's a money issue, and if you invest, X amount of money, it's gonna knock you out of the game, don't invest that. Don't risk things that are gonna take you out of the game. Risk enough where you can still play the game tomorrow. So that's my only suggestion there. If you have 2 months savings or whatever, and if you need that savings to pay all your bills, keep it. Don't invest with it. You have to have your safety net to keep you in the game. That's the biggest tip I think you can have. Just stay in the game and you'll be okay.